So when the Bible tells us about how God created the universe, we read just the end of that story. God works really hard for 6 days. God makes day and night and land and water, plants, the sun and moon and stars, and all the animals and humans. God works and works and works. And then on the 7th day, God rests. God says the creation is very good, and then God rests. The day that God rests is called the Sabbath because the Hebrew word, which is the language that the story was originally written in, the Hebrew word for rest is Shabbat, which sounds a little bit like Sabbath when we translate it. All through the Old Testament, God reminds the people to rest, to have a Sabbath day. And that day is a holy day, a special day, different from all the other days. So I have a funny story to share with you about what the Sabbath is like. It's from this really funny book. It's called, Does God Have a Big Toe? And, someone put my cover on backward here. So now I have to find my story. The story is called No Lists on the Sabbath. I know you wish you could have lived in the Garden of Eden. I know. Great weather, no problems, good food, and water that doesn't taste funny. But believe me when I tell you that the Garden of Eden was no piece of cake because Adam lived there. And Adam was a list maker. In fact, Adam was the worst list maker of all time. The elephant woke up one morning to find his trunk stuck through with a huge leaf on which Adam had written in inkberry. Elephant list for today. Number 1, dump all the broken branches outside the garden. Number 2, hose down the dirty dishes. Number 3, squash some coconuts for lunch. The monkey woke up one morning to find a banana peel tied around its tail on which Adam had written in inkberry. Monkey list for today. Number 1, dump the rotten fruit outside the garden. Number 2, pick bananas for supper. Number 3, don't eat the bananas you pick for supper. Come morning, almost every animal woke up with a list, and all day long, Adam would scurry around checking up on the animals and pestering them to see how they were coming with their lists. One day, the animals got together and said to God, "This guy, Adam, is such a pest. Can't you move us out of here? Or better yet, can't you move him out of here?" God said, "Wait for the Sabbath. There are no lists on the Sabbath." On the morning of the 7th day, Adam woke up bright and early to make his lists. He went to get his berry ink pot to write out a list for the elephant, but the ink was dry. "No problem," said Adam. "I will just go out and pick some more berries for the inkwell." But when Adam came to the berry patch, all the berries were gone. "I bet this is the work of monkey," Adam complained. "But not to worry, I will scratch out my list for all the animals in the sand on the beach." Adam took a stick and started writing lists in the wet sand. But a wave came along and erased all the lists. Adam thought this was very strange because the Garden of Eden was near a river. He had never before seen a wave that big in the river. So Adam sat down to rest, and he felt good just resting. Then the monkey came by. "No lists on the Sabbath," he chirped. The elephant came by and trumpeted, "No lists on the Sabbath." And the animals all wished Adam a good day of rest. You know, when Jesus began to travel around and teach and preach and heal and feed people, Jesus took time to rest also. In between many of the stories of Jesus' work are little notes about Jesus going away from all the crowds, even going away from the disciples to pray and to find quiet time. In the verses we read today, the disciples had just gone out in pairs to spread Jesus' message and heal people. When they came back to Jesus, they were excited about all the wonderful work they had done, but also very tired. They said they had been working so hard, they didn't even have time to eat. Have you ever been so busy that you didn't have time to eat? Eating is very important. We need to give our bodies, ourselves, food, because that's the energy that our bodies need to do everything. Just like cars need gas or electricity, our bodies need food or they don't work properly. And just as important as food is rest. We're pretty strict about bedtime in our house. There are not many things that we stay up late for or skip Annabelle's nap time for. Sleep is so important that to let our minds and our bodies rest. But rest isn't just about sleep. Sabbath day includes awake time that is still rest time. It's time that we do something other than work, time without to-do lists. And right now, we're talking about Sabbath because it's summertime. School is out. And one of your main jobs as kids is school. That is your work. But in summertime, we say this is a season of rest from schoolwork. And we can do lots of great things with that time. We can sleep in and not set an alarm clock. We can use some extra time to learn things that interest us instead of the things that our teachers say we need to learn in school. We can read the books that we want to read. We can be outside in nature. We can play and imagine. We can be bored. We can be creative when we have time and space that we set aside as Sabbath. So I want to share with you one more story about time. It was written by Anna Rippon. And Anna was my neighbor when I was a kid growing up, and she wrote and illustrated this book when she was 13. Anna and I and all the other kids from the neighborhood used to spend our summers playing basketball, and I'm no good at basketball. I was roller skating usually with the other kids and climbing trees. And so I'm going to share this book that's very special to me because she wrote it. This story is written in verse and in rhyme, but it cannot begin with once upon a time, for it happened in a land before time was found, where the past and the future were nowhere around. This place was quite strange, for high in the air, the sun never set, and the moon remained there. The sky always stayed so light and so bright that no one could tell the day from the night. The roosters weren't sure just what they should do, when they should crow, and the owls never hooted because the sun was aglow. The mice had to search for food in the light, which pleased all the cats who mewed with delight. And the people, oh my, they couldn't tell when to sleep or to wake or when work should begin. Quiet, yelled those who were trying to snooze. The others yelled back, we'll do as we choose. Some people were early, while others were late, because no one was sure of the time or the date. The people were disturbed and filled with distress, for this land without time was an absolute mess. Then came the timekeeper, a stately old man. Great powers had he at his instant command. With a wave of his hand, he ordered the skies to make the moon set and make the moon rise. Or the other way around, make the moon set and the sun rise. He brought forth a clock that divided the hours into minutes and seconds. Such were his powers. The clock, it did tick. It talked out the time and announced every hour by sounding its chime. What a marvelous clock, the people rejoiced. We want clocks of our own, they eagerly voiced. And clocks soon appeared on land and on sea, in houses, on towers, and even on trees. When the sun set at last, it brought the dark night. The moon rose on high and cast its soft light. Then all of the people went home to their beds. They blew out their candles and lay down their heads. At dawn the next morning, the sun spread its glow. The roosters awakened and started to crow. And the people awoke to greet the new day, to breakfast and dress and be on their way. All adults went to work and children to class. The clocks turned and chimed to make the time pass. The timekeeper was pleased at the order he'd brought. Now the people were happy, or that's what he thought. But all were not happy. The workers soon groaned. Our days are too long. We're exhausted, they moaned. No, no, said their bosses. Days won't be reduced. We need to add hours so more is produced. That's right, said the farmers. We need time to plow. So make the days longer right here and right now. Stop, yelled the farmhands. Enough is enough. To work longer days would really be tough. We want short days too, the school children pleaded. We're studying too much. More playtime is needed. We agree, said their teachers. We need more vacations from nouns and from verbs and from multiplications. Soon people assembled. They marched in the street. They yelled at the timekeeper. They stomped with their feet. Their great show of anger made the timekeeper worry. And when he left town, he left in a hurry. He hoped Mother Nature could clear up the mess. He sped to her doorstep. He knew her address. Please help me, he pleaded. Everyone's so uptight with the length of the days and the hours left at night. They're all very angry. There's no one who's quiet. If you cannot help me, the people may riot. Mother Nature replied, I think we'd be wise to settle their problems with a compromise. To meet their demands and all of their reasons, I'll divide each year into 4 major seasons. To please all the bosses and win farmers' praise, in spring and in summer we'll make longer days. To calm all the workers and stop all the fights, in fall and in winter we'll lengthen the nights. From the east to the west, from the south to the north, she unleashed her powers and brought seasons forth. The timekeeper thanked her for all her assistance. His walk back to town was not a long distance. The people were waiting for him to return. What plan do you have? They wanted to learn. He said, Mother Nature has the time rearranged, so the length of your days by the seasons are changed. Then he told them of winter, spring, summer, and fall. They liked the new seasons and agreed to them all. How can we thank you? They asked the old man. He said, use your time the best that you can. Work when you work, but take time to play. Make the most of each hour by night and by day. Be of good hope and be of good cheer. Be kind to each other. Be glad that you're here. And thanks to the timekeeper, his clock and its chime, their stories can start with once upon a time. Philip, I see your hand is still up, buddy. It's almost time for you to talk. Give me a couple more minutes. Time moves in cycles. Sometime we set aside for work like school, and sometime we hold sacred for rest. As we pause for some silence in just a minute and then listen to Ron play, take a moment to think about the gift of Sabbath rest time, the gift of summer. Think about what ways you are tired. Is it from a schedule that's too full? Or have you not had enough time for your favorite things? Or are you tired from classes that were boring or difficult? Think about what kind of rest you need. Is your body tired? Or do you need more time with friends or more time alone? or more time outside? Do you need a way to release stress and worry, meditation, or exercise? God has blessed rest. Not just sleep, but it does include sleep. God says we are not loved and valued because of what we accomplish and the work that we do. God simply loves us because we are God's. And God not only invites us to rest, God commands that we rest. And God ordered the cycles of time with space for enjoying life and resting. So how will you do the sacred work of rest, of enjoying life this season? And what will bring joy and peace to your time of Sabbath? Thanks, Ron.